Hello and welcome everybody to another StarCraft 2 Cast by Glitch. This is going to be the last in my series of player analysis episodes. This whole week I have been out of town. These are all pre-recorded casts where I've done a bunch of player analysis, almost like mini Day 9 analyses, almost like. So it's kind of like Day 9 Light. Day 9 Light. That's what I should call these. I should call these the Day 9 Light casts. Anyway, today I'm going to be doing some TvT analysis and analyzing the style of this green Terran player. In the top right corner of Xel'Naga Caverns, we have Fanatic Rain. Now, Rain has a very, very interesting style of Terran that is becoming much more common on the Korean fronts. And that is this heavy mech style play. I think it's actually starting to make its way also into the North American servers as well as the European servers, just because of the strength of the Hellions and siege tanks. In the past, it's always been about Marine siege tank and air control, but now it's kind of starting to have a shift towards away from Marines and towards Hellions, just because Hellions with Blue Flame do so well against those Marines. Hellions are starting to become the standard, and Rain has a very cool style that's pretty simple and pretty easy to follow. So, getting right into this game, we can see that Rain so far has just been producing SCVs, and he's getting a pretty normally timed barracks, and he is going to be throwing down a command center immediately after. I'm going to be doing almost this whole replay, I think, at faster speeds because it is a bit longer of a game, and it doesn't really need too much analysis. The idea is simple enough that I think we can get it in a pretty short little cast. So, here we go. Command Center has just now gone down for Rain. The second he's got enough resources, throws down 2 gas geysers. Why? Because he wants to get up a really fast factory with this Command Center. He has, now note, he's not going to be immediately dropping this Command Center down at his natural expansion because he doesn't yet have the forces to defend it. In case there's any kind of early pressure, he's just going to be staying here and using this Command Center, which he's going to turn right away into an orbital command. He's going to be using it for building extra SCVs and getting ahead in the economy by just having extra SCV and mule production. Factory, as soon as 100 gas hits, factory goes right down. He is producing submarines out of this barracks in case he needs to defend against any kind of early pressure. He is not yet scouted, but he is holding that Xel'Naga watchtower. Tech lab now coming down on that barracks, and he will be immediately swapping that factory onto that tech lab to get a very fast Blue Flame Hellion. Blue Flame upgrade for his Hellions, rather. And another starport going down. Now, why do we need this starport to go down as soon as possible? Because if you're going Hellion siege tank, that means you have nothing that can shoot up. You have a lot of units that are very strong against ground units, so you need to be able to shoot up. And the best way to do that, especially if you're going with siege tanks, you want to get air control, and you want to get air control early, and this means lots of early Vikings. Now, this doesn't mean a lot of Vikings. Early in the game, just 3 Vikings will be enough to hold air control, and we're actually going to see him get an early Raven also to establish extra dominance in that air arena. Now, barracks now being used to create add-ons. Reactor going down on this barracks. That is because once this Blue Flame Hellion is done, once this Blue Flame upgrade is done, we want to immediately start producing a lot of Hellions. So we are soon going to see a second factory that has been now thrown down get swapped down onto that reactor, and that is going to start producing Hellions by the tons. In the meantime, no aggression going on right now. Using these Hellions to get a little bit of map control. He did have an SCV out here at the front of the base. This is actually FXOSC, but not important because that's not who we're analyzing this game. So he does know that SC is actually expanding right now, and in the meantime he's got his Hellions planted on the Xel'Naga watchtower so that he can know if there's any kind of early aggression coming. Now expanding down to his base and swapping his starport onto this tech lab just briefly, just to throw down this Raven. This is going to mean he's going to be able to detect any kind of early Banshees, because one thing he's a little weak to right now, it is Banshees, so this Raven will also be able to get some detection up in case he needs to be able to detect the Banshees rather, so that those Vikings can shoot him down. Third factory now going down. Once this expansion lands, immediately throws down another factory, and he is actually going to be, once this expansion gets established, he's going to be swapping this factory onto this tech lab and swapping this starport onto this reactor so that he can start producing Vikings in pairs, and he can start producing siege tanks in threes. He's going to get a tech lab on this factory here. He's going to start producing siege tanks in threes. Siege mode not yet being researched, but it will be very, very shortly. In the meantime, now pushing out with a few of his forces, and we are going to see some more factories here coming down soon. Those are going to be for Hellion production. Once he establishes a third base, well, I'll talk about when he establishes a third base, well, when he establishes his third base. So for now, he's just going to be producing a lot of Hellions and a lot of siege tanks out of these 3 tech lab factories and producing Vikings out of this starport. That is what is important right now. He is producing a few Marines just to get some of those extra minerals spent, and those will come in a little bit handy in case there is any kind of early Banshee play. And other than that, still being sure to control the map. Holding these Zelnaga watchtowers that take a lot of map control, using his forces that are currently on the field, keeping them active, destroying destructible rocks because he does want to eventually take that expansion, placing supply depots behind in defensive locations to defend against any kinds of pushes, because he is going to be going for this siege tank, heavy siege tank style of play, which means he's going to be very, very immobile and very susceptible to drops and counterattacks. So still producing a lot of SCVs, now throwing down his 4th and 5th factory. These are going to be used for producing Hellions, while these 3 factories are producing siege tanks. You can see now he does have a few Vikings now out on the field, and that is all he's going to stick with. He doesn't want to overcommit to Vikings, just wants enough to control the air, and that is it. Now he's going to be pushing out with a small force of Hellions, Marines, and siege tanks. He's getting a nice siege tank spread here, and we're actually going to speed this up a little bit because the fights are not too important. Notice where he's placing these air units, though. He's placing them in good positions to spot for his siege tanks. He's actually going to sit here for a while and macro, and he's actually going to be on these production structures, these 6 production structures, for quite a while, and he's just going to be constantly producing while he plants himself at his opponent's front. He's going to be expanding to the gold. Always expand. Anytime you have this very nice defense setup, you want to expand. Again, he's got that air control sieged up a little smidgen too close. There was actually taking some hits despite having the air control. But it's now going to slowly just be pushing forward with these siege tanks, dealing lots of damage. And we are actually going to see a point defense drone come down right now from this Raven so that these Vikings can deal a lot of damage, and these Marines are going to come in and be able to push all these Vikings away, maintaining air control for rain. So, gold expansion now going down, still just producing off of these buildings. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because we're just going macro, macro, macro. And we're actually going to see SC switch to a very, very Marauder-heavy force and push out and actually clean up this force from rain pretty well. But that's because he's keeping a lot of his forces back here and not constantly bringing more forces down here to help with this engagement. And he's actually going to lose a lot of siege tanks here, but he's now well established on the gold, got SCVs mining here, throwing down 2 gas geysers at that 3rd expansion. Again, planting his units in strong positions. He's placing them forward of his map. He wants to secure this whole middle section of the map, so he's placing his siege tanks here. These Marauders are going to come out, deal a bit more damage, but now that he knows that he's going for this heavy bio style of play, he's actually going to start producing a lot of Hellions. A lot of Hellions being produced from these 2 factories, and a lot of siege tanks being produced by these 3 factories. Now, why Hellions? Hellions are a pretty cheap unit. They are considered to be light units, so this means that Marauders do not get their damage bonus versus armored against them. This means that they just do that normal 10 damage. These Marauders do have that +1 upgrade, so they are going to be doing 11 damage, but they don't do the enhanced damage against these Hellions, and they're cheap, so they act as a little bit of a buffer for these siege tanks. We're going very heavy siege tanks. 3 factories worth of siege tanks is a ton of siege tanks. All we need is a little bit of a buffer for these siege tanks to be able to deal massive amounts of damage. What else do these Hellions get for us? We can constantly be poking all around the map, trying to deal damage all over the place, exactly like Rain is doing, constantly poking back and forth, checking for expansions. SC is actually going to try to come around the back here with this little Marauder push, but the other thing Rain is doing with these Vikings, not only is he using them to maintain air control, but he's actually going to be wandering around the map with them quite a bit. Notice he's also placing units all around the map because he wants to maintain as much map control with these Hellions as he can. He's actually going to be using these Vikings a lot to repel a lot of forces, repel a lot of drops. He's placing Vikings all around his base because he wants to be able to stop drops from coming. And these forces are actually going to get cleaned up pretty well by all these Hellions, and as well as these Vikings. These Vikings are going to be here to take out that medevac in case SC decides to just pick up and drop off. But again, this is not terribly important. We now see a double expand going down because Rain has secured the middle of the map. He's very strong right now with all these siege tanks, so he's just going to secure this middle of the map, and he's going to start expanding like crazy now that he has a lot of that map control. Speeding up this replay again, where you're going to see actually SC is going to come in here with a lot of Marauders, deal a lot of damage. He's going to try to go for drops, but again, because he's got these Vikings, because he's holding the Selnaga Watchtower, he can know exactly what's going on. I wouldn't even be too surprised to see some sensor towers go down. A sensor tower here as well as a sensor tower here would mean that he can see all movement from the south part of the map to the northern part of the map, and that would be an extremely strong way of controlling the map. Rain right now maintaining that air control, pushing forward with siege tanks, more of the same. This is all just more of the same stuff. SC is actually going to poke in here, deal a lot of damage here, but Rain is now in a good position here with all these siege tanks, and is now going to be using these Hellions in this forward position. Vikings scouting for all these siege tanks, Hellions taking a lot of this damage while these siege tanks deal a lot of damage, and this force is just going to get cleaned up for Rain. Vikings still in that amazing position, spotting for all those siege tanks, and this is such a good spot for Rain. Rain is now just continuing, still operating on these same 6 structures. He can operate on these same 6 structures for quite a while. He's actually queuing up a lot. That's not something you want to do. You definitely don't want to be queuing up that much. But the idea is the same. You want to be throwing down more factories. He's actually really high in his mineral count right now. What would be nice is if he threw down some reactors and started double producing those Hellions, and maybe even thrown down a couple more factories to help him with his production even more, just because he's going for this very, very dominant siege tank immobile force control of the map. So now I'm going to zoom through the map because we are getting towards the end of this match. There is going to be one final little battle there, but Rain is going to be able to clean it up quite nicely with all of his siege tanks, and we are going to see that just shortly. And so I'm going to start wrapping this up, you guys. I've been casting these things all day. I've been doing these player analyses all day. You guys are just seeing them one at a time, but I'm actually doing these all day. I've been casting for about the last 6 hours. I just finished the Grubby versus TLO series. So this has been a fun series of casts to do, all these analysis games. If you guys like these analysis games, please let me know in the comments, and I will be sure to do more of them. I personally am going to be happy to go back to doing some regular casts and seeing all the new matches that are coming up and getting back to the regular cast, but these analysis games are very fun for me, so if you guys do enjoy these, please comment and let me know, and I might just do some more of these in the future. So, again, here comes this final push. Siege tanks, very, very strong here, taking a central position. And these Marauders are just not going to be able to do quite the damage that SC needs them to do. Just too much siege tank production in the end. Look at how many siege tanks pouring in by the 3s. This is just going to be so strong against this bio ball, and I'm going to speed this up until that final engagement. And yes, here comes that final engagement now. So many siege tanks. Hellions again taking all the damage with that air control, SCGGs, and that's it. That's it, you guys. That does it for me. That does it for the player analysis series, and back to Los Angeles for regular casting games for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the series. Thanks for watching. Glitch out.